Of the courtroom in Barrow County where this trial is happening. As you can see, it appears that the judge is there on the bench where several attorneys have approached the bench. Right now, it appears one of the attorneys has just given the judge something in his hand. So let's listen to see what's happening in this exact moment.
Ms. Jones, if you will publish the verdict.
In the Superior Court of Barrow County, State of Georgia versus Colin Gray, case number 24-CR-593-P, jury verdict. Count 1, murder in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 2, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 3, murder in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 4, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 5, involuntary manslaughter, unfaithful act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 6, reckless conduct. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 7, involuntary manslaughter, unlawful act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 8, reckless conduct. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 10, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 11, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 12, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 13, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 14, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 15, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 16, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 17, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 18, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 19, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 20, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 22, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 23, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 24, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 25, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 26, cruelty to children in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 27, reckless conduct. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 28, reckless conduct. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 29, reckless conduct. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. This third day of March 2026, signed for person.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Counsel, do we need the services of the jury or any inquiry with the jury?
Yes, Judge, we'd ask the court to poll the jury.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, the defense has asked that I poll the jury. What I am going to do is call out a juror number. I'll ask you to stand. I'm going to ask, was it your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily entered by you or made by you? And is it still your verdict? Juror number 2, will stand. All right. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 49. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 51. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 52. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 63. 63. Yes. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
It was.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 71. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 77. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 82. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 97. And was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 99. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 102. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror 103. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any reason why the jury should not be released?
Not for a mistake, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all will, go ahead and just go back to the jury room. I'll come back and address you shortly. Okay. And Brooks,
Sir.
you can put the alternates back in the seat.
Yes, sir.
Where you go to jury. All right, y'all can remand Mr. Gray in custody. Obviously, we're not doing sentencing today. Sentencing will be deferred. Don't take me yet. I'm sorry. I thought maybe you had custody. All right, so sentencing will be deferred. I probably meet with counsel in chambers and then discuss scheduling for sentencing, if that works. And then we'll go from there. And then they'll go to the sheriff's office in order. Anything else we need to address today?
Before you talk to the jury, do you mind if me and defense counsel approach this quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's my understanding of the jury. take them through
have that information. I'll hold on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we need to dismiss the hearing. Thank you for the service.
All right, right now we're giving you a live look on the inside of the courtroom where Colin Gray has just been found guilty on all charges. This is the verdict that has been reached here in this Colin Gray trial because he's accused of his son, I should say, is accused of killing 4 people at Apalachee High School. This happened back in September of 2024. So we're giving you this live look on the inside of the courtroom again where that verdict has just been reached, and you can see Colin Gray now in handcuffs. He was just put in handcuffs just a couple of minutes ago. We are working to learn when that sentencing date is going to be, but again, right now, came out of that testimony. So we can tell you that prosecutors believe that Colin Gray knowingly allowed his son access to that gun that investigators say was used the day of that shooting in 2024. And as we first heard testimony from Colin Gray when he was there on the stand, he, said there were a lot of things that were happening in his life. There were a lot of things that were happening there in that home, and that this was a way for him to essentially bond with his child regarding guns. So this does set a precedent for sure regarding what could happen in the future for parents who are charged in the crimes of their children and what their children may be accused of. Regarding the charges and with Colin Gray now being found guilty on all of those counts, he does face 180 years in prison. So again, we're still working to figure out when an actual sentencing date may come, but he does face 180 years in prison for those 29 felony charges that he was found guilty of. Another thing that we want to show you, just if we can go back to some of that true video, and we can take that video full so I can get off the camera for just a second, just to show you a little bit about what we have in the courtroom and some of that testimony that was there in the courtroom. Again, as Colin Gray, the father of the accused Apalachee High School shooter, as he was there in the courtroom, he took the stand. He was essentially grilled by prosecutors and then also, the defense attorneys resting their case not long after Colin Gray was there on the stand. But again, the idea here was, and the idea here in this situation was just so that Colin Gray could kind of paint the picture of why some of those signs might have been missed or why he didn't really consider them as signs. So we want to check in with Atlanta News First, Chelsea Beimfor, who joins us now. Chelsea, you were inside the courtroom. You're now just outside of the courtroom. What was the emotion as that verdict was being read?
Well, Brooks, it was very silent. Then you could, of course, hear people crying. We heard from the judge right before the verdict was read, asking people to limit their emotions. Of course, there were family and friends of Colin Gray in there, and then family and friends of all of the victims in this shooting. So as that verdict began being read, you could hear some people behind us in the gallery becoming very emotional, quietly crying. We could see Mason Schemmerhorn's parents holding hands and crying. Christian Angelo's father was seated behind me, softly crying as well. It was a very tense and emotional few moments. And then Colin Gray was placed into handcuffs. I was sitting right behind him and was taken away by bailiffs into custody.
You're saying that it was silent there. I was looking at Colin Gray's face, and I didn't really get a sense of anything. Was that how it seemed on the inside of the courtroom as well?
Yeah, I was seated right behind him, but I could see his profile, and he really didn't have much of a reaction to these charges. The only time we saw him really get emotional during this 12-day trial was when prosecutors played the video of that school shooting where his son, Colt Gray, allegedly carried out that attack. Later, when Colin took the stand in the trial, he said that that was the first time he had seen that video and was completely overcome with emotion and talked about how he didn't understand how anyone could commit an act as evil as that.
As those jurors were there in the courtroom as well, what did they look like? After the verdict was read, the defense then asked the judge to poll the jury, basically calling on them at random to stand up and testify and say that they indeed agreed willingly to this guilty verdict. A lot of them didn't show much emotion today, but throughout the trial, we did see some of them crying over in the jury box, especially when that video was played of the school shooting. And just a reminder here that Colin's son, Colt Gray, who allegedly carried out this attack, has not gone to trial yet and has not been convicted in the shooting, but now his father has. He has been found guilty of providing his son that gun and has now been convicted of second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and several other charges. Yeah, a lot of charges for sure. All right, Chelsea Bynford, thanks for keeping us in the know about what is happening just outside of the courtroom. We'll check back in with you in just a bit. So if you're just joining us right now, we are on the air because Colin Gray, the father of the accused Apalachee High School shooter, has been found guilty on all charges. And mainly here, as we were just in the courtroom, seeing Colin Gray as that verdict was being read. Again, not showing a whole lot of emotion right now. But let's take you back some years, because we keep saying that this is a landmark case, and this is why. If we take it back to this now only being the nation's second judicial case against the parents of an alleged school shooter, those first parents who were convicted in a U.S. mass school shooting were sentenced to at least 10 years in prison. Now, for some context here, these were two Michigan parents that were the first in the country to be convicted in 2021 for their role in the Oxford High School shooting in 2021 that was committed by their son. This case, in a way, laying a lot of the groundwork of sorts, and Jennifer and James Crumley did not know Ethan Crumley, the son, had a handgun, and he called it his beauty. That was in a backpack when he was dropped off at Oxford High School that day of that shooting. So right now, regarding Colin Gray, he does face up to 180 years in prison as he's been found guilty on all of these charges. Let's bring back, again, Atlanta News First Niamani Watson. She joins us live just outside of the courtroom for more on this case. Niamani, kind of set the stage for a lot of people who may just be tuning in and are trying to figure out how we got to this day.
Well, yeah, so the verdict was reached in less than 2 hours. The jury coming to a quick decision, finding Colin Gray guilty on all 29 charges. Now, over the past 2 weeks, the prosecutors really drove home their claims that Colin ignored multiple warning signs of what they say were red flags about Colt's mental health issues. Over the course of the trial, we saw text messages between Colin and Colt. We saw a photo of a mass shooter on Colt's wall. We also heard from prosecutors that law enforcement visited Colin's home before the shooting at Apalachee High School about accusations of Colt making online school shooting threats. So prosecutors were really driving home that all of these red flags were ignored, and still Colin allowed access to a gun allegedly used in that mass shooting that killed 2 teachers and 2 students, wounding 9 others. We also heard testimony from the teachers and the students during the trial who were shot. They were talking about how they were traumatized by the shooting, their injuries to the shooting, having nightmares and the lasting impacts from that shooting. Meanwhile, we heard from the defense that Colin had no knowledge that his son was planning an alleged mass shooting and should not be held responsible for what his son did. But of course, the jury here siding with prosecutors, saying that Colin is also to blame for this because he did ignore multiple warning signs that his son was dealing with mental health issues and could commit something to this magnitude. Brooks?
Thank you. And if you're just joining us, again, we're coming on the air right now because Colin Gray, the father of the accused Apalachee High School shooter, has been found guilty of all charges. 29 charges is what he was up against, and let's put that on the screen so we can break down these charges for you. He's been charged for murder in the second degree, cruelty to children in the second degree, several counts of cruelty to children in the second degree, several counts of involuntary manslaughter, and again, 29 charges found guilty of all of them. Colin Gray, we just heard from Niamani speaking about what his case was about, because Colt Gray, the teenager who's accused in the Apalachee High School shooting, has not gone to trial yet. That day will come later on. But Colin Gray, the father, was charged with all of these counts, and prosecutors, their whole goal was to lay out him allowing Colt Gray access to that AR-style rifle that investigators say was used there at that school back in 2024. Prosecutors also saying that Colin Gray gave his son Colt Gray access to ammunition as well as accessories, all of which were recovered at that crime scene at Colin Gray's residence. So let's now hear a little bit from Colin Gray as he was on the stand during the testimony. Let's listen to him.
To do something that heinous, like I don't know if anybody could ever see that kind of evil. And it's like the Colt I knew, and relationship I had, there's this whole other side of Colt I didn't know existed.
That was Colin Gray there on the stand as he was testifying in his own trial, giving you a look at some of the surveillance video that was played. This video believed to be the day that that attack happened. And this video shows Colt Gray there in the school. Also, this video here is showing Colt Gray getting off of a bus the day of that shooting. We heard from Chelsea Bymefore a little earlier, and as she was saying that the father, Colin Gray, that might have been the only time in which he's been emotional throughout this entire trial. That was when he was testifying there on the stand and when a very small piece of some of that surveillance video was being showed. As that verdict came down and we were hearing from the jurors about Colin Gray being found guilty on all counts, he didn't show much emotion. We were watching here live in the courtroom and no emotion on his face. And then as he was taken in handcuffs after hearing that verdict, as he was headed back to be escorted out of the courtroom, again, not really any emotion that he was showing there. Now, I do want to let you know that as we give you this live look on the inside of the courthouse right now, we are learning that we could hear from the district attorney to provide us with a statement in just a bit, but we are working to figure out when exactly that would be. But again, we have several crews there in Barrow County, one just inside of the courtroom, another one on the outside of the courtroom as well. And again, for those of you who are just joining us, we're bringing this breaking news live to you on the air where Colin Gray, the father of the accused Apalachee High School shooter, has been found guilty on all charges. Now, let's go back into the courtroom while that testimony was happening, where we heard from Colin Gray regarding some of those weapons that were in Colt Gray's room.
It wasn't always in his room, and were there times where that rifle was in his room? Yep, there was, and it was just there was never at any point during all of this leading up to what happened, there was never a perceived threat by me with Colt. You know, I never heard or he never spoke to me about doing anything as drastic as he had done.
So that was Colin Gray talking about those weapons that were recovered there at the scene by authorities the day of that shooting. And it is important to note that Colin Gray was the only witness called by the defense attorneys. He was the only witness called by the defense attorneys. Again, he was grilled by the prosecutors, and there was only one moment in there where he seemed to show that kind of emotion. But one of the things that he did point out while giving his testimony was the fact that he and his son had an opportunity to bond over guns. Those were his words. He said they had an opportunity to bond over guns. And so he did say during his testimony that he didn't really realize something was going on with his son and that a lot of those signs might have actually been missed. And one of the things that he also pointed out, I remember the first day that he was on the stand, he shared that he had been on certain medication. He was going through a lot in his personal life, and there was just a lot happening there in his home. So Colin Gray, saying that because there was so much that was going on in his own life, it was hard to maybe spot some of those things that prosecutors were charging him about regarding what he could have done to stop that shooting from happening. Again, his son, Colt Gray, has not been sentenced in this shooting. Is still accused of carrying out that deadly attack. And I don't know, do we have pictures of the victims? Because on a day like today, it's always easy to talk about what has happened, but sometimes we forget about the lives that were lost. This shooting claiming the lives of 4 people that you see here on your screen. Christian Angulo, who was just 14, he was a student. Mason Schermerhorn, who was also just 14 years old. Coach Richard Aspinwall, who was a teacher and a coach out there. And Christina Irami, who was another teacher. These were the 4 lives that were lost. There were other people who were hurt and wounded in this shooting, but these were the 4 lives that are lost. And during that testimony, as we heard from some of the students who were on the stand, who were testifying, many of them were saying, still to this day, they have nightmares. Still to this day, they struggle to get to the classroom because they always have the fear of something like this happening once again. So again, even on a day like today where Colin Gray has been found guilty on all accounts, it's important to remember those lives that were lost in this tragic attack. So Colin Gray, again, found guilty on all charges. That is the biggest development right now. It did not take jurors but about 2 hours to come up with a verdict. They were able to reach that verdict, and then they brought that news to the courtroom. We've had crews there on the inside of the courtroom, also on the outside, and we are going to continue our coverage throughout the day, where we continue to bring more of what we saw on the inside of the courtroom. That'll be on Atlanta News First at noon. And remember, you can always catch up on the latest updates about this story and any other big headline that we have on AtlantaNewsFirst.com and on the free Atlanta News First app. Again, for those of you just joining us, Colin Gray found guilty on all charges in the shooting that happened at Apalachee High School regarding, again, let's give you those charges one more time before we go, and we're going to see you back here for Atlanta News First at noon. Colin Gray found guilty on all charges. We'll see you back here at noon.